Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining me in deep space for this month's episode of Cromaine's Desert Island Favorites, the show where Cromaine staff talks about some of our favorite things. This month, we're talking about creativity, and for us, that means either things that inspire us to be creative or things in the collection that we find to be incredibly creative. For my section, I'm going to have to ask you to keep your minds out of the gutter because for the next few minutes, I'm going to be talking about wood. My father was a master woodworker and carpenter, and I managed to inherit just the tiniest bit of his talent. I hesitate to actually call myself a woodworker because I'm pretty amateur, but these following three books have been incredibly helpful to me. I'm talking about the Encyclopedia of Wood by Aidan Walker, The Why and How of Woodworking by Michael Pekovich, and Tools, How They Work and How to Use Them by Charles Platt. The Encyclopedia of Wood is so cool and it inspires me so much just to look through it. It's got entries for every kind of wood you can imagine and probably quite a few species of wood that you can't. It tells you things like where they come from, what kinds of things it's best to make out of, and just like generally a whole lot of information about wood, some of it that you never thought you would need to know. Sometimes just seeing a really cool or interesting looking species of wood makes me want to make something out of it. Or I'll think like, oh, wood looks really cool, and I've been wanting to make a computer desk or a shelf or cutting board or whatever out of it. So it really inspires me to take a look at different kinds of lumber and make things out of them, or at least make plans to make things out of them, because wood can be pretty expensive. The other two books really just have a great overview and good tips on how to use tools. They give some project plans and just have really improved my knowledge of woodworking tremendously. So if you're thinking about taking up the hobby or if you're just looking for some tips and tricks, I would highly recommend either one or both of these books. And Cromaine does have a pretty decently sized woodworking collection, so you're sure to find something that'll help you there. The next item in my list is a CD. I am a huge Radiohead fan, and unfortunately, we only have one CD from them in our collection, but fortunately, it's The Bends, which is Radiohead's second album. I like to say that The Bends is Radiohead's second album, but it's their first good album. I wasn't really a big fan of Radiohead when they first came out with Pablo Honey, and I kind of didn't pay much attention to The Bends when it came out because I thought Pablo Honey was meh. I kind of liked the single High and Dry, and I remember liking Fake Plastic Trees from the Clueless soundtrack, but they both seemed kind of like generic poppy versions of the grunge music that I was really into at the time. OK Computer then came out in 1997 and completely changed the way I look at Radiohead. With all of its lush, half computer generated, half guitar driven mixture of amazing songs, it was like robots playing a rock opera. It's probably my favorite album to this day, and Radiohead is still one of my favorite bands. So after OK Computer came out, I went back and tried to listen to Pablo Honey and The Bends. Pablo Honey is still like too kind of poppy and generic for me, but The Bends is really where Radiohead started to get into more experimentation and changing how they write songs and the instrumentation they use. It's such a beautiful album. And I think you can really see the progression away from that bland kind of poppy music that they were playing on Pablo Honey and moving towards their more experimental, just the masterpiece that they came out with OK Computer. The Bends is one of the first albums where when I listened to it, felt like I had to learn every single song on my guitar. And even though I think at this point I've forgotten how to play 90% of it, every once in a while when I'm just sitting in my basement playing guitar, I'm still turning back to play those same songs again. So if you haven't listened to it, I would definitely urge you to come and check it out. It's a really, really good CD.
Hi there, this is Megan from the Adult Services Department, and I wanted to get in on this video and share some of the things that I find super creative in our collection or that inspire me to be more creative. And the first thing is something that I adore doing. I'm not good at it, but I have a lot of fun doing it, and this book helped me. I have taken up watercolor painting, and this I mean, I never took a class in school, so I really didn't know where to start. And this book really helped me a lot. So I just got a very basic paint set. You don't need anything fancy. And it takes you through step by step, a whole bunch. I think it's 40 different lessons for painting. Some of them are more advanced, but starting early on in the book, it has so many great tips and just really simple things. And I really found myself super connecting to it, and I really love it, and I recommend it to anyone who wants to at least get a little bit of a starting place. There's so many watercolor books out there and videos, and this is one that I found really connected for me. The colors are great. The lessons are really, really good, and they're all simple things you can easily paint up in just a short amount of time. So second is a piece of music that we are adding to our collection right now. We don't have it yet, but we did order it. And it is by a musician named Benee. It's Benee. She's a 20-year-old from New Zealand. And this album in particular is called Hey You X, H-E-Y, space, the letter U, space, and then the letter X. And it has some really great songs. My favorite is Snail. But her most popular hit right now is called Super Lonely, and that is also on this album. So she reminds me a lot of music from the 90s, including Bjork, and actually she looks a lot like Bjork, so if you're familiar with her, you might have an interest. Less electronic music to it, more like early Bjork from the early 90s. But she is fantastic. I will say though, there are swear words on the album, so if that is something that you're worried about, definitely don't check it out. It's not in every song, but there are a few in there. Super creative, incredibly creative. And I love to listen to her music while I'm doing tasks. So if I'm really working on something that requires concentration, I can just pop on my headphones, zone out to the rest of the world, and focus on what I'm doing. And her music makes me really happy, which I think we all need right now. Another thing that I found super creative in our collection is a new graphic novel by Sarah Anderson. She's famous for doing Sarah's Scribbles, which is a comic, usually really short, just a couple little squares. But Fangs is her latest, and I really liked it because as a teen in the 90s, I was very into vampires and werewolves, which were all the rage back then. But this one follows a vampire and a werewolf who enter into a relationship together, and it covers like the problems that come up as well as their unique solutions to the problem. So, you know, the female character is a vampire, so she's always cold, and the werewolf is always hot, so they can cuddle and everything works out. But the art in it I thought was really well done. It's somewhat simple, but also effective. So it's just something I really, really liked. I really connected with. I've read it twice now. Fangs by Sarah Anderson. Give it a shot. And then last but not least is one of my all-time favorite books. Actually, it probably is my all-time favorite book, American Gods by Neil Gaiman. If you've asked me for recommendations in the past, I've probably recommended it to you. It is not for everyone. They did make a series, I think, on HBO. Not that great compared to the book. The book was infinitely better, so I was very disappointed in the series. But the audio version is fantastic, and this particular version has a full cast, so each character has their own unique voice. Even the original recording of it, though, I don't remember who the actual person that does the narration, I don't remember their name. Excellent. The story is great, and it's been out for quite a while now. But it is fantasy, but almost believable fantasy in a way. Believable and totally not believable at the same time. So it follows a character named Shadow when he gets out of prison, and the first person that he really talks to is someone who offers him a job with no reason to. He doesn't know who the man is. He goes back home and finds out that everything that he thought he knew about his life was false, and it follows his adventure of working for this man, who you find out later is a god, one of the many gods that was brought by immigrants to the United States and to other countries too. But it's just such a unique story. I've never read anything quite like it before. And at the start of some chapters, there are stories of those gods. So there's, follows one that's from Ireland and the change that they had to go through as they came to America and became a forgotten god. But the story does follow Shadow and his god friend, and they really, you get introduced to a whole bunch of different like mythological people or religious at some point, not necessarily religious anymore, but it's a really just absolutely unique story. There is adult content and there is violence, so be aware of that if that's something that you are easily offended by. But those are my picks, so I hope that you try them out, or at least one of them, and let us know how you like it.
Hello friends, I'm Becca from the youth department, and one of my favorite creativity inspiring items that we offer here at Cromaine is our how to draw books. If you're looking for something super simple and fun, we have books like this. This is Ed Emberley's Great Thumbprint Drawing Book, and it's really fun because you literally make thumbprints and they show you how to add cute little features to them. If you're looking for something a little bit more challenging, and if you're into superheroes, we have books like this. You Can Draw Marvel Characters by Dan Jurgens. Let me show you. So this one's a little bit more complex. They're showing you that you can take their pages and you can trace over them like that. Or I can show you how to do rough pencil drawings like that. And my personal favorite is this one from the teen collection. This is Drawing Manga, Animals, Chibis, and Other Adorable Creatures by J.C. Amberlin. And I need to show you how cute this book is. Let's see here. What's a good one? Okay, are you ready for this? Look at how cute these little creatures are. This one is my favorite. So these books are great because they will teach you the skills, and then you can use those skills to create your own characters, stories, or just have fun doodling. I hope you give them a try.
Hi, I'm Heather, one of the Youth Services librarians here at Cromaine, and I have so many creative hobbies. Typically, music inspires me the most, and while my music taste is all over the board, if I'm writing or working on a creative project, I tend to listen to Apocalyptica, Lacuna Coil, or Nightwish. Something about those three bands makes me feel as though I am creating a masterpiece. If I'm working more with my hands, though, like if I'm doing something with embroidery or crochet or beading, I just started listening to podcasts and I'm currently loving The Office Ladies. I'm a huge fan of the US version of The Office, and I highly recommend this podcast if you're also a fan, if you like hearing about some of the stuff that went on behind the scenes when they were creating the show, and if you also like listening to things while your hands are busy. Other than that, I tend to get inspired by really random things like conversations, art, or just things I experience or see, because my brain is often in what can I do with this idea mode. So there you go.
When I think of creativity, one series that impresses me is The Dark Tower by Stephen King. Lots of people think of horror when they think of Stephen King, and while this series does have horror elements, they're mainly fantasy books, and they also have Western elements. The series tells the story of Roland Deschain, the last gunslinger, and his companions as they travel to fantastical and dangerous worlds on their quest to reach the Dark Tower. To me, this series is so creative because King has made worlds and creatures and customs that are so wildly strange and out there, but also tie into many of his other books. It's amazing to me that one person has the creativity to develop an epic like this. The plot is so complex, and it definitely requires imagination on the part of the reader as well. We have several of these titles in print at Cromaine, as well as on CD and in downloadable format. Enjoy!
And there you have it. I think that's about it for this. And there you have it. That's it for this month's episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you found at least one or two items that you're interested in coming to Cromaine and checking out. We'll see you next month, where we're going to talk about African American creators and our favorite things made by them. Until then, have a great month.